Hi folks, we're looking here at Venus. You can see its crescent shape wavering in the turbulent wind. Now this is the view through an 8-inch LX200 telescope with about the equivalent of 400 magnification or so. Some of you may have seen videos recently taken through camcorders. Rather than telescopes. And you've seen a big ball shape for Venus. See here, the telescope is pointed at this bright dot off in the west. In fact, it's the only dot the camcorder can see. When I zoom in on it, you see this big ball shape. Well, what's that all about? Well, that's what we call a bokeh. That's the reflection of the shape of the optics of the camcorder. It doesn't actually tell you any information about the actual shape of Venus. We just saw it's a crescent. All it tells you is the shape of the optics. You have to manually focus because the camcorder is not so hot at focusing on stars and planets. It's not what it was really designed for. It expects to see faces and people, much bigger objects than dots. So this is what you may have seen. My camcorder has a rectangular opening at the end, so you kind of get a squished shape instead of a nice sphere with this particular camcorder until you start zooming out a little bit. But again, when you switch to the telescope view, you see Venus's true shape. So there you see it, a crescent. And some of you may have heard, it's not a planet, it's a spaceship, it's a plasma light ship. Yes, I've even heard that. Well, some people like to take wide field shots of Venus with the stars, but you can't see any stars here, right? Well, that's because the telescope has a very fast exposure to catch Venus's true shape. But when you do a wide field shot and try to capture the stars with it, you overexpose Venus and it becomes this big ball of light. I'm going to turn off digital zoom and then increase the length of the exposure so you can see what that looks like. Wow, look at that. Big ball of light. That's only a 4-second exposure, but already Venus is not showing its true shape. It's just showing a big ball of light because you've overexposed the image. You lose all definition in the shape of Venus. But it requires this kind of exposure to have any hope of seeing stars. Now with this particular view, we're pretty well magnified here, so you still can't see any stars. They're lost in the glare of Venus. But you can see this is what you see in those wide field pictures, say, when Venus crosses through the Pleiades. You see a big ball of light next to a bunch of stars. Well, this is your big ball of light. It's not actually Venus's true shape. For that, you need a short exposure. An exposure that's way too fast to show stars, like in this case when I turn off the automatic gain control. Proper exposure is around 1/1000th of a second at the moment, a very fast exposure. Bump it up to 1/700th. Venus is getting quite low, and as it does, it will get dimmer, just like the sun when the sun is setting. But that's it. That's Venus. And in a few weeks, that crescent will get smaller and smaller until finally Venus actually crosses in front of the Sun. Last time in our lifetimes that we'll be able to see that, on June 5th or 6th, depending on where you live. It's a very rare event. And right now, Venus is about 30 degrees separated from the Sun in the sky, and you may wonder, well, how's it going to get in front of the Sun by June 5th? Well, it's actually getting closer to Earth every night as well, so that closure rate will accelerate as we get closer to the date, and we'll get closer to the Sun faster and faster, until finally it crosses the Sun in just a few hours' time. Less than a day. So there you have it. That bright star in the west, that's Venus.